Some may, but not all will agree.
Well, they'll be here to speak to that, and
yes,
I'll ask
yes.
them for that. So as you say, there is an exception. But your exception, I want to know why you have this. It reads that the woman must face immediate injury or death to meet this exception. And do you believe it's fair to force a doctor to compromise a patient's health by waiting until a woman's condition deteriorates to such a point that it becomes life-threatening or severely debilitating?
Okay, in reading the Health and Safety Code, severe fetal abnormality means a life-threatening physical condition that, in reasonable medical judgment, regardless of the provision of life-saving medical treatment, is incompatible with life outside the womb. That's why I changed it to match up to the health.
But she has to be at that point. And so if she's had a ruptured membrane or, preeclampsia or some other conditions, she would have to basically wait until she's at such a point that you get to this point.
You also have the physical life to the mother in there as well.
Pardon?
And if it will cause the physical death to the mother, that exception is in there as well.
Right, but you're waiting. The doctor has to wait till she gets to that point when, if she has a condition that we know is serious, she would have to face infection and a serious infection until the doctor would act. And so
they can act immediately, and it does say that they can act immediately in the bill.
Not if she has a ruptured amniotic sac or placenta's torn or burst.
Then you go to an emergency room, and then they will make that assessment, because then that would become, that most likely is going to lead to the physical life to the mother.
But there's a gap there, and so my concern is that she would have to face serious infection, before she could.
No doctor is going to allow that to happen.
Fall under the exception to your bill.
No doctor is going to allow that to happen.
We don't know that, but I think the language of this legislation would make the doctor wonder what to do, because they would face repercussions if they don't follow what the legislature told them to do versus what their medical training.
This does not interfere with the doctor-patient medical diagnoses.
It does if we have dictated that the doctor can't act until her life is in danger.
We are not dictating that the doctor cannot act until the life is in danger.
If that's your only exception, if your exception is that
physical life to the mother, and as the Health and Safety Code says, a severe fetal abnormality.
Exactly. She has to reach that point. The next question is, you provide no exemptions for psychological reasons, and why is that?
Well, having gone through 2 pregnancies, 1 miscarriage, I can tell you have all kinds of emotions going up and down as a pregnant woman. And to use mental thinking as an exception is a wide open hole. And Representative Farrar, the point is that at 5 months, a child is clearly being developed in the womb and can feel the pain. And my desire is to protect that child, and have the state has a compelling interest to protect that child from that pain.
I believe that you believe that, but I don't have the evidence, the scientific evidence of that.
Well, if you called my office and you did not get those, because I remember in the last session, the last hearing, I had them, and I've given them out to multiple people. And certainly,
it's mysterious because
Did you ask and didn't get them?
Yes, a couple of times, by the way.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
I will find out.
So are you saying then that you don't believe the woman's mental health is as important as her physical health? Or
I think the woman's mental health can be very subjective. And I have put an exception in there for the physical health.
But not the mental health. So what about?
No, I have not.
What about? Are you aware how severe postpartum depression can be?
Yes, I am.
And the effects that we had some
Yes, I
terrible,
am.
high-profile cases, but I've dealt with this issue, and the ones that you don't hear about are astonishing, quite frankly, and often go undiagnosed.
Oftentimes, postpartum develops after the baby has been born.
And a lot of times it happens with multiple births, with subsequent multiple.
It can happen after the first birth.
Pardon?
It can certainly happen after the first birth.
Right. And so it concerns me that there's not an exception there, because it is a lot. I believe it's a lot more serious of a condition than perhaps you believe it is. Let me move on. Hospital visitation privileges. And maybe you can help me, because I have not been able to find
hospital visitation.
I'm sorry, admitting.
Admitting privileges. So 30 miles.
Pardon me for that confusion. Can you define for me what admitting privileges means, and what it means for a physician?
Abortion doctors would be required to secure admitting privileges at a hospital within 30 miles of each clinic at which he or she performs.
Representative, I didn't mean that. I can read the bill. Can you define for me what admitting privileges, what does that mean? Because I can't find it in statute.
Okay. Well, each hospital determines their own admitting privileges through their board. And many times they're tied to the local medical community, and they have a process in place that they would allow the doctor to be able to use their facility when there is a need, or, for whatever it is that they need to do.
Do you know what the process is to apply?
Like I said, each hospital has their own set of admitting standards they use.
Is it considered?
There's no set standard. I'm sure they're probably all very similar, but they can set their own criteria.
So they have discretion. Is it conceivable to you that a hospital might say, you provide abortion care, doctor, so we are not going to provide you because admitting privileges because we don't want our hospital picketed, or we don't want any kind of...
I don't know.
Has that concept come across?
I would think that they would want to make sure that if a woman had complications because of an abortion gone wrong, that they would want to be able to provide a facility to help that woman.
But there's nothing in your bill that requires hospitals to...
No, I'm not making them...
Right. So what happens in a situation where the hospitals within the 30-mile radius would not provide, say it's a religious hospital, and so they just, whatever their convictions are, whatever their reasons are, in the case of a hospital that would not provide admitting privileges, what does your bill do to secure the health of the woman there?
Well, actually, hang on. Every abortion clinic in the state of Texas right now is within a 30-mile radius. That includes, that is a secular hospital. That includes a secular hospital. So, answering your question, if a religiously affiliated hospital did not have the policy to give privileges to an abortion doctor, there is a secular hospital within 30 miles of every abortion clinic in the state of Texas. I think that's why the 30-mile rule came out.
And if they're denied everywhere, would you accept an amendment to your bill, since this bill has been purported to be about women's health? Would you provide an amendment that would allow an exemption for a facility that was turned down by the hospitals within that 30-mile radius?
I'll take a look at everything, but I know that the author of this original bill and the Senate author looked at every, Dr. Gould was the, Hager. They looked at everything, and, I'm looking here, and one of the notes that I have is almost 2/3 of abortion doctors have privileges at urgent care facilities near their clinic, and many abortion doctors have privileges at multiple hospitals. The 30-mile rule would only negatively impact the bad actors who are practicing at a lower standard of care.
Well, think about it, though. We've heard a lot in just dealing with the Affordable Care Act. And I've heard stories from women that couldn't get their tubes tied even at a religious hospital.
Right.
And so
you have a secular hospital within 30 miles of every clinic.
But
currently
there's
in
no
Texas.
guarantee, and that's my concern is that if they can't get these admitting privileges, because there's no other outpatient procedure that requires admitting privileges. So this is something new that you're introducing. And so I'm saying that if we're really concerned about the woman, then we would exempt in those situations where they would be turned down everywhere else.
We're truly concerned about the woman, because if something goes wrong at the abortion clinic, you want to make sure there's a place that has the equipment and
Or Mike. Something's wrong with your mic.
Oh, I did? Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, thank you. You want to make... Is it back on? Okay. You want to make sure that there is a place for that woman to go in case there are complications. That is the purpose of that. It is to protect the woman.
But if she can't get, if it shuts down the hospital, you would shut down the hospital. I mean, you would shut down the facility. But
no,
that's what
I think the facility will bring up its standards.
But it has nothing to do with their standards. It has to do with the kind
For women's health care, I think standards are very important.
It has to do with that they provide abortion care, and some places
Which
they might not get admitting privileges.
It's a very invasive procedure and can have some very severe complications.
Let me move on. So, say you have some sort of medical emergency. What is your first thought? Do you call your doctor and say, do you have admitting privileges?
Depends on what it is.
Or do you call 911 and get the ambulance there and you go? Or how?
If you have a doctor, you're going to hope that he has all the available backup to take care of any emergency.
Right. So
which is why you'd want an abortion clinic to be within, a hospital to be able to give him the backup in case he has a problem with one of his patients.
Well, but we still go back to that issue of whether there really is a hospital available.
Well, there is.
With them that would grant the admitting privileges.
And I have no doubt if the standards are high, the hospital is going to do that.
You and I don't know that, though. We can't make that determination here. We just have to make sure that our job is to make sure that okay. Indeed is available. We're not creating something that's not doable. So that was